Despite having every previous main Pikmin in Pikmin 4, there of course were some that were going to be overshadowed by others. And with the 3 Pikmin type limit, sometimes you've never got a reason to use some of these types. So how exactly could we buff some of Pikmin 4's most underutilized types? Well, that's what this video is about today. And we're going to begin with the Yellow Pikmin. The Yellow Pikmin was one of the first ever Pikmin types, with its abilities consisting of being able to be thrown higher than any other Pikmin type, being able to dig fast, and also being immune to electricity. In previous Pikmin games, Yellow Pikmin were essential for puzzles, tough enemies, and barriers. All of the same still apply in Pikmin 4, just to a very small scale. The number of electric enemies in Pikmin 4 is very minimal, and electricity has also lost its lethality. It can still kill Pikmin, but you're never going to lose Pikmin to this, come on. Only times we'll be using Yellow Pikmin is just to grab them out for a few seconds to take down a gate and then put them back. They are also heavily overshadowed by the introduction of Winged Pikmin. So the first change I would make to the Yellow Pikmin would be an indirect buff by making electricity a more prominent hazard in the game. Not just that, but I'd go as far to say that they should make electricity an insta-kill hazard again. Especially with how little of it shows up already, they might as well make it at least a little bit scary. Some enemies like anode beetles would be perfect to drop in a bunch of existing caves. Another thing which could buff Yellow Pikmin would be the reintroduction of the light bulbs from Pikmin 3. These light bulbs could only be turned on by Yellow Pikmin, and it would be cool to have these as an optional advantage in some caves, encouraging you to bring Yellow Pikmin. Because apart from that, Yellow Pikmin have really lost out on their ability to be thrown higher, because Winged Pikmin make this almost useless. And their ability to dig fast is a cool bonus, but any Pikmin can get that job done. For a third and final buff, they could change up Yellow Pikmin in combat, potentially making it so they can cling to enemies better than other Pikmin types, so they're harder to shake off. This would be a nice extra buff to give them, and would also change up combat that little bit more. For an example, maybe encouraging you to bring yellows instead of wings to bosses like Baldy Longlegs. Alright, so next up are Rock Pikmin. How could we possibly buff these guys? Rock Pikmin's abilities consist of being able to break crystals, and also being immune to be crushed on soft surfaces. A recurring issue which you're going to see with a lot of Pikmin types is that Nintendo takes features from Pikmin and then generalizes that feature to all types. For example, for Rock Pikmin, their ability to break crystals persists, although a lot of the previously crystalline materials, for example the Peckish Aristocrat's claws, can now simply be broken by all Pikmin types. And I think we can all agree that that needs to get out of the door, and we need to make it so there are exclusive enemies which have crystal parts which can only be broken by Rock Pikmin. Because the Peckish Aristocrat is a great example. This enemy isn't impossible to kill without rocks, but using them gives you an awesome advantage in the fight. This will encourage the player to bring Rock Pikmin out in areas where they might not, and we need more of that in the fights in Pikmin 4. The second buff goes a very similar way. They need to reintroduce the crystals on the ground from Pikmin 3. These crystals could be found all over the place, and they would contain stuff like story items, fruit, pellets, anything you can think of. They seem to be very much replaced by the Hydro Jellies, which are like crystals for Ice Pikmin. It would be awesome to see bosses like the calcified Crushblat return. A third buff for the Rock Pikmin, which would be really interesting, would be to make the Rock Pikmin do extra damage to frozen enemies, as if they're literally chipping and shattering them. I'm sure we're all aware of how overpowered the freezing mechanic is currently, so I'd make it so all other Pikmin types will do less damage to frozen enemies, but Rock Pikmin really pack a punch. I honestly love the idea of having Pikmin synergies in battles like this, making you think instead of just charging all your guys at one enemy and letting it die. It'd be awesome to have strategy not just in the collecting resources, but also in the fighting and dealing with enemies part of the game. And imagine a new species of Crushblat that wears a Hydro Jelly that you can freeze with Ice Pikmin and then smash off super easily with rocks. It would be awesome to see an expansion to this species of enemy, and I think this could be an interesting fight. A small additional buff they could add to Rock Pikmin would be the ability to make it so they cannot be eaten by small creatures. For example, shear grubs. I don't know how these little guys are biting through an entire rock, but you know, it would definitely be cool to make them more durable like this. Winged Pikmin. Winged Pikmin are especially weak in combat, but they of course have the ability to fly. This allows them to take shortcuts, fly over enemies and obstacles, and also be excellent in aerial combat. I say they take shortcuts, but that was basically removed in Pikmin 4. Nintendo didn't go through the effort to give Winged Pikmin special pathfinding in basically all of the maps, so they now take a normal Pikmin route, except they fly in the air. I do understand that the game is massive, but in a dream world, Winged Pikmin would have got great shortcuts in all caves and all stages again. This would buff them an extreme amount, as you would be able to skip over tons of enemies and obstacles just by putting winged Pikmin on a fruit or a treasure. Bamboo gates from Pikmin 3 were also absent in Pikmin 4, and I've got to be honest, I've never been a fan of these, but I would like to see some sort of permanent version of these gates. So when the winged Pikmin lift them up, they will stay lifted forever or the rest of the day. Most of what makes winged Pikmin good is the environment they are in, and because they were introduced in Pikmin 3, of course the areas were created with this Pikmin type in mind. So it's kind of hard to actually directly buff them. But anyways, here's a fun one. On certain enemies, winged Pikmin will attempt to lift them up in the air and drop them, or potentially even allow you to transport useful enemies into different areas. This is a crazy stupid mechanic, and it will probably never be added, but I think it's a fun idea for the winged Pikmin. If you were to buff Pikmin in Pikmin 4, which ones would you buff? And what would you add or change about them? Let me know down in the comments. We all know who the true villain of this story is, and that is the 3 Pikmin type limit, the worst thing to ever come to the Pikmin series, and that's right next to Auto Lock On. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye everybody. And hey, thanks to all my current supporters. Most of them are over on my VR channel. If you haven't checked that out, check out WigmanVR now.